Hey guys, how y'all doing? My name is Kieran, and this is Fox Up RPG. So today I'm joined by the Troll Lord Stephen Schultz. Schultz.
Chenault, yeah.
How you doing, Stephen?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. Thank you again for doing this. It's brilliant. It's insane for me to have it's I think it's insane that so many people are willing to talk, to some idiot on the internet.
Well, it's what we all do, right? We're all in the same kind of boat together at the same table, playing the same hobby.
Exactly.
And we all like to share, what's going on.
Yeah, that is 100% true. So maybe today we'd like to go over a few little things, like maybe how Troll Lord started, and just a few questions about the games he's make. And personally, I love Castles and Crusades. But how exactly did Troll Lords and become to be, and how did you create Castles and Crusades? Like, where did it come from?
So the company, we couldn't find it the other day. There's this podcast that some folks call the Crusader podcast, and they interviewed the three founding members of Troll Lord Games: myself, my brother David Chenault, and then Mac Golden. And we founded TLG in 1999. And the funny thing about the Crusader podcast is Tyler and crew interviewed us separately. And all three of us have slightly different origin stories for the company. So it's very fascinating to me how that we all remember. I'm sure Mac will watch this eventually. He definitely will. He watches. He's not in the company anymore, but he watches everything, and we're still very good friends. And he'll go, "No, Steve, that's not right." But we'll go with what my memory serves. So we've been gaming forever. I started in the mid 70s with my brother Davis. Mac started in like 80 or 79 or something like that. And so we've been gaming forever in a day. And we started gaming together. Mac and I did in 1985. And we still game together today. When he doesn't, he's kind of retired. He's kind of hung up his dice. So the occasional time that he gets out. But I tried a few times in the 90s to get published at Wizards of the Coast. Was it TSR? Would have been TSR then. With TSR, I wrote The Mortality of Green, a couple of other adventures that I had submitted, and they all got rejected. I actually have the rejected version of Mortality of Green with Roger Moore, who was one of their old editors, all over it. It was very kind rejection, with some really good pointers on how to fix it.
Yeah.
And while I was kind of doing that, Mac and a good friend of ours, Chris, created a zine called The Seeker. And I remember we used to go to Dragon Con every year in the 90s. We went to Dragon Con and we took a Mac's zine there and we handed out, I think, 2,000 copies of this thing. And they did a few more issues. And in and around that time, it's going to be about early 99. This is after we distributed all that at Dragon Con after I'd been rejected. Mac and I, it was Mac's idea. He said, "Hey man, why don't we not go to Dragon Con this year and we go to Gen Con instead? And we go ahead and just take some of our stuff and we create a little company and go up to pay for it." Now, Mac remembers that a little bit differently because he was doing things a little bit differently. I didn't know he was doing. He had gotten involved because of he's a lawyer. He had gotten involved with Wizards of the Coast, who then owned D&D, and their secret discussions about making the open gaming license. So Mac wasn't part of that process, but he was one of those people that participated in the discussions on whatever board or whatever they were talking about that mess. So he knew what was coming with third edition. I had no idea. And when he suggested, "Hey, let's make a company," I think I was working for the state of Arkansas then. Sort of. I was working for Kelly's Temp agency, and they had me. I'd been working at the state of Arkansas for like a year and a half through the Kelly's Temp. I think that's how that worked. And I was like, "Sure, let's do it, man. I got free time. Let's do it." So we founded this little company at Vino's. We met at Vino's. He met me down. There's a great pizza and beer. We created Troll Lord Games. And we kind of came up with what we wanted to do and how we were going to do it. And my idea was we're really just doing this to cover our expenses at Gen Con. Mac had a bigger idea going on that we're going to do. Let's make a gaming company. That was his kind of idea. And in the midst of that, in that first meeting, in whatever week that was in 99, Davis, who was a working archaeologist, he would come when he got out in the field. He'd come stay with me for a few days, then go back to the field. So he came and stayed with me and my wife, and heard what we were doing. He said, "Hey, I want in." So Mac was overjoyed to have Davis in, so that he joined us at the next meeting at Vino's, and that's where we came up with the name Troll Lord Games and decided kind of what we wanted to do. And Mac had all. It's really funny because Mac had all of these notes. He had drawn the logo, all kinds of stuff. I got a sheet of logos somewhere around. He had drawn like 30 logos. But he was way ahead. He was light years away ahead of Davis and I. So we took Mortality of Green, and he wrote an adventure, fantastic adventure, and Davis wrote one called Fakut Into the Unknown. And we took him to, so Mac was running the company those days. The idea was Mac's going to run it, and then I'll do most of the writing, the layout, and stuff like that. So I was teaching myself PageMaker and all this crap, and went ahead and bought a booth at Gen Con. Mac got us a printer. The printer said, "Listen, if you give us a fourth book, we can give you a deep discount. You want to spend more, but you're going to get a discount on everything." So Mac said no one had the time to write it, so I wrote the After Winter Dark campaign setting, a little 24-page book. Yeah, which eventually became Air, of course. So I wrote that. I think I got one of those somewhere around here. I know I had one not too long ago, but so I wrote that little. I don't know where it's wandered off to. I wrote that thing, and Davis was in a hotel out in Montana, Wyoming, and he drew the map for it. I sent him some sketches, and we had to do this through the mail, of course. And he drew the maps, printed the maps, all that done. So by the time Gen Con rolled around in 2000, we had 4 books in his full-page map. We had a booth, and we went to Gen Con, and it was crazy. We were selling a little bit. D20 was released, and it was exploding, and there was no one with D20 Adventures. And Mac had the foresight, because he was part of that open gaming license, to scale out. But he and Davis sat down and created a very small game called Swords and Sorcery. It was very like Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, and we put it in the back of each of the adventures. So we sold really well at Gen Con. People were hungry for adventures. They were hungry for something to do. It was us, Necromancer Games, and Atlas Games were the only ones that had anything even vaguely, ready for 3rd edition. And then James Mishler came up, who turned out to be a good friend of mine. I didn't know him at the time, but he was a buyer for AC Distribution. Saw our books. He ordered 60 of each book and 60 of the map. And suddenly we had almost earned our cost out. Suddenly we had a company. That, of course, was Mac's plan all along. And for me, it was like, holy shit, what happened?
You're like, I can imagine he sat back and put shades on. Exactly.
That is 100% the way Mac does. He does it all the time. He's very good at manipulating me. He can kind of pull my strings. He could have known each other for so long. And I don't give a crap. Mac's wicked smart. So whatever he wants to do. But so suddenly we have a company, and we go back and we start, we got to put a production schedule together. Davis and Mac have full-time jobs. I've got a full-time job, but it's very expendable. I stayed with it for a little while, but then immediately started writing another adventure that I wrote in the Codes of Air. And in the midst of that, this is like 2 weeks after Gen Con in the year 2000, Mac said, "You know what we should do? We should publish Gary Gygax." And I'm like, that's interesting, Mac, but sure. Dropped all of our books off at his booth, and I talked to him at the Heck Forge booth, and I was like, "You did what?" I didn't even know he was at the show. And he said, "Why don't you give him a call and I'll shoot him an email and see? You never know." I said, "Sure, I'll shoot him an email." So I emailed Gary Gygax. This is like, I don't know, September, October or something in 2000. And he responded pretty quick. Come to find out later, he really was religious about his emails. He responded as fast as he could. He didn't let emails sit around. Anyone that wrote him, another designer or a fan or whatever, he responded pretty quick. So he responded, and I was stunned. And within like 2 or 3 emails, we're on the phone. And then at the end of that phone conversation, we're drawing our contract. But this is insane. So suddenly, and Gary had like 10 books, VFW stuff that he wanted to do. So suddenly we have this all this stuff. We have no idea how to run a company, know how to do it, lay a book out. We don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're publishing Gary Gygax, and that was the launch pad for Troll Games. Very chaotic.
Confidence and bullshitting your way is how you start a company, and having someone who's very smart as well.
Do what?
Confidence and bullshitting, and having someone who's very smart is how you start a company.
Yeah, it really is. It's really funny too, because when I did that Crusader podcast, I did it, and then Max said, "Hey man, I just did one too. You should listen to it." So I listened to it, and I called him later. I said, "Dude, we have completely different origin stories for this company." It was so funny, but he clearly, because he was part of that behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah,
and even to this day, I don't really get much into that. So he kind of knew what was happening and where things were going, and he laid down a plan. He left the company in 2003. His family started to grow. His legal career started to grow, so he really couldn't. He had to pay on it. But then as D20 began to crumble, it got really crazy tough. So, but we're still very, very good friends. We talk all the time.
That's great, because that is one thing that I find fascinating about Troll Lords is it's a very tight group of people who've been connected for a long time. It seems like, and even when it comes to the game itself, you can go back to the first edition of Castles Crusades you put out. You can still use the same box set, the same books today, because what you guys have done, which is ungodly customer friendly, especially in this sort of industry. This industry is every 5 months, here's a new core book. There you go.
It's crazy.
It's the same core book. You just have different printings, which you add stuff to it, update things, but the core game itself.
We've had two. We're
that's
picking up to our 11th printing, and we've done 2 major changes. From the 3rd to the 4th, where we just rewrote the Barbarian, and that was it. And then from the 8th to the 9th, the 9th to 10th, or I guess the 10th, we had to get rid of the open gaming license material because Wizards of the Coast with shenanigans that they were doing. But even then, like you said, it
caused a big ripple.
It really did. It caused a whole lot of problems.
It caused them a lot of problems as well.
Oh yeah. Well, they pretty much wrecked. They wrecked their market. Yeah. Now we'll see if they can fix it or not. Everything's fixable, but it can't be good over there for the past 24 months, is my guess. It's got to be rough. Just looking at the numbers, it's not.
I can just imagine all the daggers in people's backs. That's all I'm saying. You don't need to make any comment. Just me as an average gaming bro.
That was an interesting day too, because the way the OGL was designed, and it's really not. You can't get rid of it, right? You can't legally pull it out. Not really. When they tried to do this during 4th edition, they wanted to pull back in 4th edition, and they created the GSL. So I was aware because I was running the company. When Mac left, I started running the company. I was aware what they were doing. I know why they're doing it. I don't blame them. Whatever, you got to do what you think is best, right? That's what anyone's going to do. So no fingers or anything, but I was cognizant of what they were doing. And then in January of 23 or whenever that was that they announced we're pulling the OGL back. I was funny because I was working that morning, and Chuck, our social media manager, that's not, what does he do now? Community outreach. He emails me or texts me and said, "Hey, dude, Wizards of the Coast is doing something weird. You got to check it out." I'm like, I don't have time for whatever Wizards of the Coast is doing. And then Davis texts me, and then I get throughout the morning, I get 5 or 6 texts. I go, "Oh God, what the f is going on?" And then when I read it, I was like, "Oh my God, here we go again." And I called Davis on the phone. And I said, we either need to decide, are we going to just go with whatever they decide to do, or pull the OGL? I'm tired. I don't want to have this conversation ever again. And we're in the process of reprinting Amazing Adventures and CNC, I think the MT. And Davis took Davis 8 seconds. No, pull it. And I think, I agree. Let's just pull it. So by that afternoon, we were beginning to put into place how we're getting all the OGL content out, which wasn't much, as it turns out.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just naming conventions for spells and some monsters and stuff like that. I think when people heard about it first, they're like, "Oh shit, the whole world's gonna blow up." But then it's like, "Oh, it's basically just naming conventions," which is still a pain in the ass, especially if you're a small indie creator. You don't know what's going on. You don't understand the legal side of things. You think like you might have like maybe half a dozen books out, and they're just simple stuff. And you think it might get
You
hell.
You have no idea.
You know.
And when
So,
we were,
again,
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's just
I can't remember what we had done. It was the Lost City of Gaxmar. Back in the day, in like 04 or something, 03, we got a cease and desist from Wizards of the Coast. And when you're new and don't know any of the legal or any of that, it can be mind-jarring. You're like, what are we supposed to do? Now, they were very cool about it. It wasn't, it just said in future printings, don't do X. I can't remember now. It was something X. Mm-hmm. So in future printings, we didn't do X. It was fine. But it can be jarring when a company, that large says do this. You're like,
yeah, because the thing is, they were, like you said, they were very gracious, but if they weren't, they could just go ham. And even if they're in the wrong, you still get screwed because financially you get ruined. That's what happens, sadly. And this is
everywhere,
any industry.
Anyone buries you in legal, and you see it all the time in TV shows. We're going to bury you in legal. Well, it's a real thing. They can bury you in legal, and that's why we decided let's just pull out and call it a day. And it was great. The OGL was wonderful. It got us where we are. Now we'll do our own thing. And like I said, it's just naming conventions. The changes are minuscule and don't affect play at all. So,
yeah, that's an important thing.
Yeah, I remember one of the guiding. There's a few guiding principles that went into Castles and Crusades, but I remember reading. I'm gonna have to find this because I quote this all the time in Dragon magazine a gazillion years ago. Editorial that Gary wrote when he was still in charge of TSR. And think what you will of Gary, he was a very good businessman. And in this thing, he talked about editions, and he was very categorical. We'll never have different editions of Dungeons and Dragons, because if you create a new edition, you split your customer base. And he had probably seen that with the basic set and in AD&D. He was probably watching his customer base unintentionally split. And I took that to heart. I thought, because that's when it first hit me, that's really actually hard on people, on the gamer. I mean, that's tough, because you're playing this for 5 years, and now, wait, am I supposed to, do I throw all this out, and now I got to do this? So it became a guiding principle. We're going to stick with it's just Castles and Crusades. That's what it is. There's no additions.
The things that you do now when it comes to your printings, again, they're called printings, not editions. For anyone's listening, just to make sure.
Yeah.
You it's just changing like spelling errors. Sometimes it's adding content, transferring content from one book to another book. Like with your last with the Reforge, you put more of the stuff that was in the Keeper's Guide into the Player's Guide, the extra levels and stuff like that, which is brilliant. I think it makes sense. There's one thing I want to say. How I came across Castles and Crusades was from DM Bloodwort. He has tons of videos out there. I think he's almost 60 or 70 videos. I've watched probably 40 of them. And then my friend of Dungeons and Dyslexia, Adrian, he started talking about it a little bit. I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to check it out. So between those two guys, I was just like, okay, I'm going. And I went for it.
That's good. I've watched quite a few of their videos. I know it's
yeah.
It's interesting how I don't know how it's changed so much, because when we started this, there's literally just magazine ads and conventions. I mean, there's not a lot of avenues, but obviously, starting probably 10 or 12 or whatever, the internet really begins to become this vehicle for anybody, to get out there, and people can learn stuff, which is great. It's like the old, when I was a kid back in the 70s, you go to flea markets, and everything was affordable, right? It was like 5 cents for a comic book because it's chewed up or it's mangled or whatever. But you could see all kinds of crap because there was just stuff everywhere, as opposed to the little bit more corporate that we have today.
Even when I was a kid here, it used to be sort of like those sort of big sales things, but they were organized.
Yeah.
So down the road from where we are now, it's kind of gone now, but it used to be like this open market. you could apply to sign up. I think it was you pay a small fee. You come in, people be selling candy, toys, books, and stuff they had in their like storage, and like some of the stuff would be absolutely brilliant. Like you get great old cooking books. That's what I got a lot of them as a kid.
Yeah, I mean,
again, you find a lot of interesting stuff you wouldn't find anywhere, as well as antiques.
Yeah, because then you're tapping into your communities, everybody's, eccentricities and their hobbies and their whatevers. I mean, I got a whole mountain of books on UFOs that if ever did a flea market, someone
that's what I see that.
There's about weird books about aliens or whatever.
I tell you what, I want to believe as well.
Yeah, I keep trying.
I tell you what, I've been recently rewatching X-Files. I've been recently rewatching that, so
yeah,
I'm on season 2. That's all I'm saying.
Just
see, great minds think alike.
Absolutely, those two really, Mulder and Scully, have some of the best on-screen chemistry.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just fantastic. But I saw a meme, whatever they call it, a couple of years ago that said when you hit 50 or whatever age it is, you have two choices. You can become, what was it? It was, you can be a World War II buff, something that's like cars or something. And I'm like, I think I'm going to do aliens. I think I'm going to get weird about it.
That's the way to go, I think. Yeah. I'm not a car guy myself, so I would either be aliens or
you get
myself.
You're bored with work.
I'm currently between the two. Had to make that hard decision in it. Like, well, I'm 34 now, so like, how many years? Yeah, 50. 60
you got a few years to figure out which direction you want to get weird.
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll know by then if the aliens come down as well.
That's
so.
True. That's true.
But so let's get back to Castles, Crusades, and Troll Lord itself. But so the actual game of Castles Crusades, people when they talk about it as if it's an OSR game, and I think you can put it in that category because it is an old school type game. It's clearly inspired by AD&D in some ways. You can tell by like the way some of stuff is done, and it just works a lot smoother and faster, in my opinion. Overall, I think it's probably a better game in many ways. They're still different, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
But
I cut my teeth on AD&D.
Again,
I absolutely love that game, but there were some parts of it that you had to kind of work through.
Yeah, you kind of. Yeah, I have some books here, but I got them like from drive-thru printed off, and I was reading it. I played it a ton. It's absolutely brilliant. But every now and then you're like, what the hell? And you're like sitting there for 10 minutes trying to figure it out, scratching your head. I'm like, oh, okay, I think it's this. And then you look up online, and like 20 people have 12 different opinions of what it actually means. You're like, just whatever, forget about it. But yeah, but the game itself, it's great. It's fast. It's pretty smooth. It looks, the layout of everything is great. The gameplay is really well. I love the way you do checks, which that might seem like a small thing to people, but it's not, because these things will. The pace of the game can go very different because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what check you're trying to do. You don't know what the score is. You just have a very simple baseline. You roll it out, and the DM will tell you if you passed or failed. There you go. That's because you know what you're trying to roll, at least if you have as your prerequisite or not. And again, it seems like it's such a small, simple thing, but it's not. It does have a bigger impact as you play through the game itself. So what made you come up with that?
So when a D20 is very interesting because, of course, Mac and Dave had created swords and sorcery in the very beginning. So they had this kind of, the embryo of a game system. And Mac and Dave are really game designers. I'm not really a game designer. I design, character classes, stuff like that. I'm more of a writer. That's why I work on the world setting, fiction, and stuff like that. But Mac and Davis really love game design. And so, but we don't have any room for this because we're publishing Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. But I remember very distinctly John Nephew, the owner of Atlas Games, I don't know if he still is, but back in 04, maybe 03, it must have been 03, I was sitting in a restaurant at GTS, the Game Trade Show, and John he was there too, and he walked by, saying, "Hello, how you doing?" And he goes, "Are you ready for the bubble to burst?" And I'm not a business guy. I've been working on my PhD in history when we started TLG, so I have no business, never. I think I managed a pizza joint for like 3 months before I joined the army. So that's the most business I've got. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about, John. And he said, well, the D20 bubble's fixing to burst. There's too much out there. And when it bursts, third edition is going to, the secondary market's going to collapse. So you better get something in place. So when you lose sales, you've got, something to make up that loss. And at that point, I'm like, well, I don't know what he's talking about, but John's crazy smart and he's crazy good at what he does. So I went back and I sat down with Davis and Mac and said, hey, I think we probably should start. You guys want to do a game forever? I think we should do a game. Do our own game and just kind of get it in under this bubble. Now we did it burst before we got CNC out. I said I want something. It's got to be like AD&D in that because I ran so many years of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and my games were very fluid, and because the rules were so light, I could ignore and change and add to easily. So it's got to be very malleable, so that I can play it, and that I want to actually, because I'm going to be the front man for Troll Lord Games, that I can get out there and say, hey, this is a great game, and this is why, as opposed to third edition. I didn't really like it. It was just too combat. The combats took too long. It was crazy too long. And it's got to be fed to heart. And they designed Castles and Crusades throughout 03 and 04. They play tested it constantly. They ran stuff through playtest groups online. And the only part of that design process that I had was they would write a rules section, and I had to understand it in the first pass because I hate reading rules. I absolutely hate it. So they would send them to me, and I go, it's too complicated to rewrite it. I don't know what you're trying to say, rewrite it. So they dump it down as much as they possibly could, so that I could take it in. But key to that, all that stuff is the siege engine, and that's what you're talking about, that attribute check system.
Yeah.
Because when I'm running games, and I ran into this all the time with AD&D, there's a river in front of you. I started using terrain early on as a major part of my games. I describe it, and terrain is an encounter as big as monsters are. It's at times you got to climb a cliff, you got to swim the river, you got to climb a tree, whatever it is. And the AD&D had a system for that, but it was weird, and it was because I think it was reversed. You had to roll above your attribute or something. It was very strange. I can't remember what it was. It was in the Wilderness and Dungeoneer Survival Guides, and we used them, but they didn't work well. So when Mac and Davis, when they began designing the siege engine, they took that the way we played to heart, and they knew that they had to come up with some kind of check system that allowed anyone at the table to do what they wanted to do, and the CK, the DM, to have some kind of mechanic to respond to it. And this is where Mac's playing style came in, because Mac, of all the players at my table throughout the 1980s and the 90s, he would do the craziest shit. I mean, it was just crazy stuff, and it was great. It was brilliant, but I would be like, okay, I got to figure out, can he do this? And I had no AD&D. There was no way. You know what I mean? There's no way to figure out. It's not part of his skill list. He's just a dude trying to swim a river. Well, how do I negotiate this river type thing? And that's where the siege engine, Max constantly pushing the envelope and me needing some kind of mechanic. That's where the siege engine, that's kind of the germ of the siege engine. That's my crazy ringtone. But
aliens are speaking to you.
Yeah. My granddaughter changed it. I haven't changed it, but I guess it's a mess. But so anyway, so when they design the siege engine, it comes across, it's so ludicrously simple and versatile and malleable, and I can do anything with it. And when I finally started playing CNC and gave up the AD&D screens, I found out within an hour or two how crazy versatile. Because no matter what it is a player says to you, and it doesn't matter if they have a skill or a feat or an advantage. None of that matters. All that matters is that they said, I want to try to convince that bartender to give me a free drink. They said it. Now I've got something to resolve it. And the nice thing about the siege engine, it's our attribute check system. For those who don't know, the nice thing about it is we have good guidelines. If it's swimming the river, it's a dex check. You don't have to do that. As a CK, you can make it a strength check, an intelligence check. You can make it a charisma check. It's entirely up to you.
Yep.
So I've found that even when I don't know exactly when the players are doing something, if I don't know what to do, I do whatever attribute pops in my head first. A wisdom check, a charisma check. Yeah, it doesn't matter because I'm resolving.
Whatever makes sense in the moment.
Whatever makes sense in the moment. Yeah, that's the perfect way of putting it.
Yeah.
And then I've got a resolution. They've got a resolution. Everybody's happy, and it doesn't slow the game down one iota. It takes seconds to do, and then they either succeeded or failed, and then you're moving on. So there's a subtle brilliance to the Siege engine that Davis and Mac achieved that, I don't think many other game systems have gotten there. They've done systems that are good, but they always complicate them. They always keep adding parameters to it. And it doesn't need parameters. We just need a resolution. It should just be like a swing. Did I hit or did I miss? That's the joy.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who play 5e, and when they come into say play any type of old school type game, like it could be Castle Crusades, Shadowdark, anything like that, they always look on, but what ability can I do? What skill do I have? Think outside of that. Think about what you would like to do or what your character would like to do. Because, you're trying to embody your character a little bit, maybe. If they're a highly intelligent paladin, play like that. If they're an absolute dumbass thief who's happen to be looking with their hands, do that. He gets caught a lot, but, you're trying to embody the character a little bit. Think of what they would do and be like, okay, I want to try and do this now. You don't need to have skills or attributes, If you're a big tough guy, maybe you have a higher chance of bending those bars or lifting up the heavy object than the wizard.
But that's the cornerstone of it, because and we've discovered that when people are coming over from D&D or other games that have skills and feats, I can see it when I'm running them at conventions. They keep looking at their character sheets. Can I swim the river? Jump in. You'll find out in a minute. That's the whole thing. Can I convince them? Whatever. And then it usually takes like 30 minutes or an hour, and you can see the brain engage. They're like, oh, wait a minute. I can try to start a fire. I don't know how to start a fire, but I can try. Sure, you can absolutely try. And I've got an attribute check system that's going to tell us if you succeed or not. So, and there's no cap on it. Right. And this is one of the things I try to stress to so many people when I'm talking about RPGs. We hear all the time about the forever DM, and the DM has to put in so many hours and all this creativity. And there's a lot of that on the other side of the table, too. I mean, there's a huge amount of it. It's just usually shackled with, I only have these 5 skills. So I got to wait for a circumstance to use one of these skills. When in fact, you're just a person that can do. I mean, I can try. I'm trying to think of stuff I haven't done. I can't light a fire very well, but I can certainly try to light a fire. I've never used a chainsaw. I can certainly try to use a chainsaw. It's not, I got hands.
Not possible.
Yeah. So I can pick
well, if you didn't have a hands, that would probably be a very.
Yeah.
You might have to try and invent something to use it.
Right. But even then, you probably find a tool.
So you need someone else to help you with the hands again.
But that's the whole thing about it. I think that it's just freeing up people's imagination at the table, and that's the cornerstone. That's kind of the strength of CNC and the CJ.
Yeah. Again, think of free flow sort of gameplay. That's what I like. I like things just kind of happen.
Me too.
And it creates more tension, because no one really knows what the hell's going on then. But then let's say if you end the session, like something dramatic is about to happen, or your players are going to go off somewhere, then you can put a little bit more handcraft into, say if they're going to go into this temple. You can create the temple, you can draw it out for them, put them on the table there, and then let them go wild. But if they start going to that temple while you're in the middle of the game, okay, just draw a rough idea what it could look like, throw in a few creatures or monsters or people, and there you go. Simple. Yeah. And then let them figure out what they want to do. You already probably have an idea where you want to put things here and there. Let them go crazy. And they will create something better than you could. Yeah. And then you can just grab that and then build upon it. Because, you make the bad guy even worse.
Yeah. I wrote the Codex of Erd, wherever that thing is. But that Codex of Erd was based on a game that we began, a D&D game that we began in '85 and ended in 2000 and whatever, 6 or something. So
wow.
though I wrote it, there's everyone who sat at the table with me is part of it, because, and even when I was writing it, I remember this is when Mac did this and changed this. Oh, this is where Todd broke the Holy Avenger and he had to do, this. And that becomes part of the lore. So they're all over this thing. Their creativity, their imagination is just everywhere in the thing. Because I don't really like to lean into the whole idea that this is a big collaborative thing, but it is a collaborative thing. I mean, it is a bunch of people sitting at the table just making up, the story.
Being silly sometimes, being super serious, Let's go steal those chickens. Okay, and that can be one long ass game, a great adventure that you never have, that other people might never have. If you wrote that out, people were like, "This is great." It's such a silly one shot game you could have, no problem, great tale time.
And there's no,
and then that stupid thief that keeps getting caught gets caught.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's funny. You mentioned earlier a few minutes ago that you don't like to plan stuff as much, or just kind of spitballing as you go. And I used to plan a lot more in the early days, and I remember Mac saying to me, now those days I would spend hours prepping for a game. It's back in the 80s. Yeah. And if we were in a game and it got to a stopping point, I'd say, we got to stop, and I'd go home and prep for a couple of hours, and we'd pick the game back up. But I remember him telling me once, he said, listen, you haven't had any of your really involved NPCs lately. Why don't you just get some NPCs? Let's get some good role playing going, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, I can do that. So I quit. I went home and I created this duo of a gnome and a kobold who were just best of friends, mercenaries. I wrote all of this backstory, wrote them all up. They were 5th level at the time. And a kobold, of course, is 6 hit points or 4 hit points or whatever it is in AD&D. And I remember I described
where this is going.
Yeah, you know exactly where this is going. They were doing, I can't remember what the characters were doing, but they were on this kind of bluff, and they see the kobold first. And there was not a nanosecond between me describing that kobold and Matt go, I lightning bolted. He just lightning bolted. Destroyed it. There was no chance. Even with a save, could it have survived? I was so mad. I was like, damn it, Matt. You destroyed my thing. He is still funny as crap today. But that started me on the journey of, you know what? I'm just going to start making this stuff up as we go, because these people just like everything I do anyways. So
that's brilliant. That's a great little story. The second he said kobold, I was like, he said create an NPC. Kobold.
I should have put the gnome in first in retrospect.
Maybe have the kobold on a leash.
Yeah, something like that. But it's interesting too, and this is where the siege engine, the CNC is so wonderful, because when you're spitballing like this, if you're spitballing what you're doing, if you're kind of making it up as you go, the players are going to make it up as they go, and their reactions are going to be all over the place. So you got to have some way of just saying very quickly, no, yes, you succeed, and by just not authoritatively doing it, you're letting the players roll, so they get a hand in it. They get to decide. The dice get to decide.
Yeah, that's my preferred way to play, because I hear stories today still, like people play like to prep for like 2.5 hours for a 4-hour game. I'm like, so where's the actual like role play? Because if you have a set thing that's gonna happen in this order, how am I gonna be my wacky little thief who keeps getting caught?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no real room for that.
No, there isn't, and it really and that stifles people's creativity. And it's like I said a minute ago, those people on the other side of the screen are just as creative and imaginative as you are. So unshackle them as much as you can and let them do, whatever they want to do. And whether it succeeds or not, that's a whole different discussion. But they at least can try to do, whatever. It's a pretty fascinating game.
Exactly.
I think that I'm not a huge gamer in that I play lots of types of games. Like Davis, he plays, you put a game in front of him, he'll play. He doesn't care. Board game, card game, video game. He doesn't care. He loves games. Max the same way. I'm really not. I'm kind of a role-playing game guy. I played like 4 different role-playing games: CNC, Gamma World, Dark Heresy, and AD&D. I think this is about it. I think I played Twilight 2001. So I'm pretty much even narrow in my, in the construct of it. But as games go, RPGs are probably, I play a lot of GTA. I do like GTA. RPGs are probably the most unique game ever, because nothing lets you just do. and you can
Yeah.
just do whatever you want.
It could be total freedom.
Yeah.
Again, you could be the most nicest people, a character who's played the nicest character, try to help everyone. Try and be like a Hercules type,
Yeah.
that kind of role model type character. Or or mass slaughter.
Yeah. Anything goes. And it's
Opposite in
I
every
don't
possible
know,
way.
it's an amazing game, an amazing hobby. And those people who dive into it, I know it's every year it seems to be more people are playing it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's just a great place to be.
Even the last few years, I feel like there's more people playing other types of games. I think again, going back to OGL stuff, that pushed a lot of people away because even creators, third-party creators, are like, oh shit, maybe I'll check out something else, and they end up liking it more or just as much.
Yeah.
Or they have more creative, or they feel like they have more creative freedom, or whatever the case might be. All this stuff you're seeing more and more third-party stuff for other games, which again I think is great.
It is, and it's great for the market. It's great for everybody, and it was interesting during the OGL mess because I remember watching people on TikTok specifically. That's where I mostly go for entertainment. And there was people, D&D players, that were doing one of two things. They were either saying, this is just not cool. I'm done with Wizards of the Coast. But I'm going to keep playing D&D because I have all my books. And I'm thinking that's the joy, right? I mean, I played the same AD&D books. If I pulled them out, they have no spines. They're mangled. They're just because I got them in the 70s and we played with them until 2000 and something. Same books. I mean, we didn't do second edition. We didn't do the internet. So that was the cool thing to watch people kind of become enlightened that you really don't need us. I appreciate that everybody, finds castles and crusades, but you got it in front of you. You're golden. And then the second thing was people were like, I think there's other RPGs out there that aren't this one. And then they began exploring, like you said, they started looking at other systems and really pushing the envelope into what. Because the joy of, you certainly can do it yourself and keep playing the same kind of game, but you get kind of stuck in the rut of that game. So the joy of pushing out is you find just new. Shadowdark's a perfect example. I mean, Kelsey's done a fantastic, beautiful job in just kind of making this different direction. It's really cool. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Like, again, when it comes to that sort of stuff, myself, I find my own creativity within games has improved quite a lot from doing the channel stuff because, again, I'm looking at different kinds of games I mightn't have looked at before. Getting ideas how, I could do this instead. I have this adventure for this game that I wouldn't have played before. I'm learning something from this.
Yep.
Maybe there might be tables in there you can use for any game. It doesn't matter. Throw it all together. You're creating a toolbox that you can plug into any game. And you're learning different ways to do just to do things. And even as a player, on a player side as well, it's you're gonna have different types of adventures you might play. You might figure a way out to do something differently based upon like your stats or whatever kind of rules within that game, and you might click something in your head.
It does. We've got this section in the player's handbook that it's in the Ranger section. Now this is kind of you don't need it to play. It's just extra information that I wrote together because I think it's pretty fascinating. I love Rangers. And it's this 2 or 3, I think it's 3 pages of just tables on different types of scat, how you track, what you're looking for, and all that other stuff. You could take those 3 pages and put them in any game, anywhere with ease. Because it's just information with a little bit of loose rules that go, the siege engine essentially, that go with it. And you're golden and you can go. And that's when you get into other games, that's what you find out. And I borrow all in my table. I'm borrowing all the time. I'm like, I like that. That's very cool.
Just because a different name is printed on the front of a book doesn't mean it can only be used in that thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And I think that's what
it's information. That's what it is. It's information.
Yeah, the OGL really opened up people's eyes to it.
Yeah. Yes. That's one thing I actually want to mention as well about your books is that you just mentioned it there is there's when you open up the player guide or the other books, there's information on how to do things or guidelines and for players, for GMs, you call it castle keepers, all that stuff, which is great because you kind of understand where you're coming from with the ideas behind some of the rules, or like you said, with some of the classes. This can inspire players on how to behave or act within the class, embody the class a bit more. Which you have later throughout your books, which is absolutely brilliant. And another thing that I said earlier about is you're insanely customer friendly. You have 3 core books,
Yeah.
and end of the day, you can just use the player guide and then any sort of monster book you have that's in that sort of like AD&D, OSE, OSR type games, because the stats are relatively similar. But you have your own as well, which is absolutely brilliant. Lots of tables in there, tons of monsters and creatures. And you have the Castle Keeper's Guide, which is just going to add a bit more flavor and ideas and different rules you can add in. Like if you want to add communists into your game, you can. So how pretty are you? Or how
yeah. It's got
like me you are.
Yeah, exactly.
There's tons of stuff in there. And like you have stuff like like when it comes to dungeoneering, like this type of stuff you might find in a mountain or in a dungeon, like plant life or mushrooms and whatever the case might be. All that stuff in there is great for a GM to kind of come up with how things should look or feel, the theme, the concepts of everything, which is great because then you can sort of like pull on it again for other games or for Castles Crusades, whatever case might be.
Right.
It's just information again, which is always good to have.
Yeah, CKG is filled with that. The absolute, the dirty truth is for Castles and Crusades, all gameplay and all the classes and the equipment and the spells is all in the player's handbook. 1/3 of the player's handbook is how to play Castles and Crusades, and that's really, it's called the CK section, and it's really for the CK, so you can learn how to play CNC and run the game. And you really don't need the rest. I know my whole crew is going to kill me when they hear me say that, but you really just need the player's handbook. I remember there was some problems with the Monsters and Treasures back in 2005. The player's handbook came out in 2004 for Christmas, in December of 2004, and was officially released in 2005. The Monsters and Treasures was supposed to come out like 3 months later. It was horribly delayed. So like a year and a half late or something like this, 2006 or whatever it came out. And we were getting a lot of complaints. I'm trying to play this game, but I don't have any monsters. And I didn't say it, but in my head, I'm thinking, just use your AD&D monster manual. It's just the only thing that's different is the armor class. Just switch it. You're golden. It's just go. It's the same thing. But, and I know why people wanted the M&T, and obviously the M&T is extraordinarily helpful. And I would recommend if you want to play CNC, you get those 2 books. But the Castle Keeper's Guide is just filled with just caves. There's like 8 different types of caves. There's rules on how to break your armor. There's rules on just weather charts, getting lost charts. It's just all kinds of stuff, random stuff.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that I got I backed the reforged backpacker, the backpackers adventurers backpack. Oh my god, my brain just went.
It's a mouthful.
I backed that, and I backed with the physical copies of the books because I'm in Ireland, and it can be a little difficult to get certain things here. Because if I was to ship that from the US, it can be quite expensive. But one thing I love with you guys is when you do a lot of like projects and stuff like that, and you almost always have options to get the core books, which is great for people like me in different part of the world. You can get them at a much better rate. And then delivery will all come together, which it's good. But I also backed Castle Zigzag as well, which I can't wait for.
That's going to be a monster. Yeah, we work with GMS.
Oh yeah.
Where are they located? They're in England. I can't remember exactly where in England, but they're located in England, and they do shipping for us in the European Union. I think everywhere but Australia, honestly, because you're right, shipping. And I've watched it over the years. At the U.S. Post Office used to have something. Well, we have media mail, so if it's a book, it's like 30% cheaper or 40% cheaper or something than normal mail. In the States, they used to have that overseas media mail, and they canceled that in about 2008 or 2009. I can't remember. And after that, it went from a reasonable cost to order something from UK or France or wherever to I don't know what it is now, but it's expensive and it's a lot.
Yeah. There's a thing on Kickstarter. I was gonna back and get like the physical copy of it, and it was like $15, but the shipping was like $20 or $25. I was like, that's just too much.
It's too much.
It was like a small, like 25, 30 page book as well. It wasn't a big chunker,
And then like in some countries, I think Denmark, I know the VAT, they get hit with the VAT. Now, in some places it's not because it's booked, but like in Denmark, you're going to pay $30, whatever the player's handbook, $40, and the shipping is going to be about 40 to 45, and the VAT's going to be another 15. So, I mean, it's nutty. So GMS has helped us immeasurably, help everyone over there get the books easier because we can get them over them. We freight them over and all that crap.
Yeah,
but the shipping is just it's weird. It's weird. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's the last like 6 years or so, it's gone crazy.
Yeah,
just in general for anything, it doesn't matter what it is. You can get like trying to ship a card. It's like a birthday card is hell. Never mind.
It's insane. I don't know. I have no idea.
Even within Europe, it's gone insane.
Has it?
Like, yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on, but it's nuts.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, we need to get Dakota, who runs the print shop. He's got his pilot's license, so maybe we can just get him to fly over there every couple of weeks, fly around.
Yeah, I saw him there. I think it was last week or the week before. He was showing off the new printer.
Oh yeah.
With Grace, I think you jumped on that stream as well. I can't remember, but he was showing it off. And he's like, "Oh, this is how this works." And then we do like the color scan to see what the color grade. You need to do that every like couple of months or couple of weeks, whatever it is, or after so many printings. I was like, "Oh, this is cool."
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I know nothing about it. I like to watch and read things and like learn about things I don't know anything about. I'd probably never come across it again or have any interest in it again. But in that moment, I'm all about it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of knowledge tucked away. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I will say that when we started the print shop in 2005, we had one set of machines. We burned those out, got another set from Datamax. Burned those out, got another set from Modern Image, then another set from Modern Image. Except in 2005, we bought a 1954 Champion cutter. And that cutter, and I'm sure he showed it in the video, is still working. It's broke down in 20 years. An old industrial, it's just great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, what do you call it? As a programmed obsolescence?
Yeah, I think we are.
Yeah, we have that today.
Yes.
Yeah. But like when the warranty says 10 years, don't worry, 10 years in one day it'll stop working.
Yeah. No kidding. Yes, very interesting. It was funny when Dakota started working for me. He hated the cutter. He's like, "Oh, this thing there's no digital interface. It's an old hydraulic cutter from the 50s." And I said, "Dude, don't badmouth my cutter. It never breaks." And now it's his favorite piece of equipment. It does exactly what you ask it to do. It works. So.
Just line things up correctly, measure out. There you go.
Drop the blade. You're good. It's wonderful.
And that brings me to another thing that I absolutely love at the company, as a whole. You guys, you try to do as much of the work as you can for yourselves by yourselves. I know you have local guys, which is great, and of course you're going to be expanding and building your own factory, which is you're actually putting your money where your mouth is. Meanwhile, other people and much bigger companies are like, complaining but not doing anything. You're putting the work in.
Yeah, that's the hope. We the first run at it, we had to shut down because it didn't work. But that's not slowing us down. We're looking for land again because I want to build my own factory, move all the print stuff into it, warehousing. And the eventual plan was to get that set up this summer and then expand next year into doing our own hardcovers. Everything's delayed now, 90 to 120 days minimally, as we got to regroup. But yeah, we're definitely going to do that. The print, we got all the new equipment in the print shop, so that's really upped the game a lot for us. It's just very tight. It's very, very tight in the print shop. We need a little bit of elbow room. So, and we can't do hardcovers because it's 5 separate pieces of equipment until we get more floor space. But we're definitely trying to do that.
That's awesome. Again, that's one thing I love. Like, you're actually trying to do the things that you preach. And like, I know you try to hire local people as well when you can.
We do
for all your stuff, which is good because you have stuff with veterans as well. Like for even just buying the games, they have discount codes for the you have some sort of like card in the US for veterans. I'm not sure what it is, but like all that stuff is great because
Well,
they try to do something for the country, and at least it's nice when people like give them a little something back, whatever the case might be.
yeah, well, and it's
And
actually
it
there's a
all
host,
helps.
it does, and
People.
there's a host of reasons to do it.
Yeah.
And you can pick
Yeah.
wherever you are on whatever you cherish. You can pick reason, but we've done this forever and a day because I've read so much history. I know how much economic policy from any government can cause dislocation for businesses, and that was always in the back of my head. And since I've been running the company, we've seen 2, if not 3, major events that have caused economic wreckage through the RPG and game making industry. And we've been pretty much immune to it during COVID. I remember someone posted on Facebook or X or wherever, and he said, why is Troll Lord Games the only one that can deliver their books? What is going on here? And I'm like, well, it's because we print here in the States. I mean, the Chinese market's closed to everybody because of COVID. No one knows what's going on. No one knows who's reacting or overreacting or underreacting. People are just, everybody's doing something, but we have our own print shop. We're just making books. So there's hosts of reasons for it. It's good for the environment. It's good for local communities. It keeps your costs down. There's just tons and tons of reasons to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's a good policy, I think. And I appreciate you pointing that out because a lot of people don't know it. And we do have our own print shop, do a lot of our own in-house stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that. Just again, even if you don't care about anything other than, let's say, environmental stuff, just say that for example, your books are traveling less distance to get to the same point.
Yeah.
Because even if they're coming to Europe, they're still traveling less distance.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people who's super obsessed about pollution and all that stuff, there's one good reason that why companies should try to print as much as possible at home. Besides them bringing jobs locally, locals able to gain new skills or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, it puts money in local communities. It puts skills in local communities. It stops money from flowing to other countries that may or may not deservedly get it. And then it's good for the environment because I remember this was years ago, but someone was telling me in the paper industry because we buy our paper local too, and someone was telling me that to coat the paper, we have to cut it and send it overseas, and then they coat it in whatever chemical it is because it's illegal to do it here in the United States. And I'm like, well, that's not helping anybody. I mean, it's the whole whatever. So I think whether you want to go from environment to patriotism to whatever, it's just it's
business sense.
Yeah, it's just better. I think it's just a better approach.
Yeah,
and I know it can be a little bit more expensive, but the dirty secret is that no one wants to tell people outside of the industry is the crowdfunding mechanism has increased the profits quite a bit. So you actually can afford to spend a little bit more on printing or manufacturing or whatever it is. Because you used to have to give deep discounts to distributors that you don't have to do anymore. So you still have to, but you have a huge market that's already bought what you're doing. So even the economic reasonings for not I question them. I question them. But I'm venturing into some very controversial.
Yeah. As I say, you don't have to say anymore.
Yeah. I will say this.
There's some creators fuming
Yeah. I will say this. Everybody has to make the decisions that they have to make. If they feel is the right one, and God bless you. Good luck. I hope it works, because you only can do what you know and what you're comfortable with and what you feel will succeed. And that's and I've made many decisions.
Even besides all that stuff as well, it is also a major risk on your part anyway. Because it does require a lot of upfront fees and stuff like that. So
it does. Well,
I know currently in the US, no, go on.
No, I was going to say, I know that specifically with China, and I don't know why U.S. Customs does this. Who knows why Customs does what they do? I'm sure there's probably random searches or whatever. But I know that there's good friends of mine in the industry who have had shipments of books flagged and held at Customs at the port for 6 to 8 months. And the reasoning, Customs doesn't really have to give you reasoning. And it wasn't some nefarious. It was just some guys probably got to do a quota. I gotta check 10% of the incoming, whatever. and that's you just got
Yeah.
you got caught up in the net. That's just the way it is sometimes. But it is. There's a business side to it. It's a little risky.
Yeah, but yeah, again, Castles Crusade is an absolutely brilliant game. I love it. I wish I found it sooner. That's my only thing.
Well, thank you.
Since I've jumped on it, I have backed 2 of your projects, Castle Zigzags and the Adventurers backpacks, which is great. I put down. I think I spent $200 on the Adventures backpack alone.
Well, thank you for that.
Just so I can get the core books, and then I went all in with the. I got the physical and the PDFs of the Castle Zigzag. So I can't wait for that as well. I know that'll be a good bit away, obviously, but
it'll be in March.
You're doing updates pretty regularly as well, so
yeah, it should be March. We're on target for that. I'm super excited about both of them. Adventures backpack should be going to the printers in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would think.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. We need to do our final, passes and look for whatever we misspelled somewhere or something.
Yeah, I remember listening to one of the live streams, and you said it'd be a relatively quick turnaround. I didn't think it was going to be that quick.
I was hoping it would be fast. It did, when I laid out for that, when I figured it would do 30 to 50, and we created stretch goals for that. Well, it didn't. It did like 120, I think, or something. So we had to add stretch goals.
I think it was 130.
Yeah. So every time a stretch goal is added, that's more work that we got to put into it. So it slowed it a little bit. But and we hope it's done. We just got to do our final 3 passes on it, and then off to the printers it goes. Which I'm super. That's awesome. One of my favorite books because it's just filled with weird equipment and backpacks, and I like weird stuff. So it's the alien.
That's completely normal. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by them. You just can't see them.
Yeah. That's the whole point.
But this has been actually brilliant, Stephen. Thank you for giving me your time for coming out and doing this. I will link in below in the description and in the pinned comment where people can find your store, all your online stuff, any upcoming projects you have. I just want to again thank you for doing this. It's absolutely brilliant. It's great talking to you. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just thank you for having me on. I absolutely love it. It's a great talk. Just thanks. Absolutely, thank you.
Well, thank you again. I'll see y'all guys. Thanks again, and have a good one.
Take it easy, everyone.